Mavericks on the Dallas Mavericks Radio Network on 97.1 The Eagle. Joining me from 105.3 The Fan, host of The Get Right, Reggie Adetula.
What's happening?
A.K.A. my former radio partner, but we won't talk about that right now. We're not going to talk about that right now.
Oh, we're not getting insider secrets?
No.
Okay.
That was a bad day for me and you. But we're here.
I had fun. I was fun.
You had good?
Yeah, I was good.
Good time
today?
today?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be here for a little bit also. Grant Abseth from Mavs Sports Illustrated. He's going to be joining us here in a little while as well. And coming up in just a few moments, Nick introduced him, of course, the television voice for your Dallas Mavericks. Mark Followill going to be joining us here in just a moment as well. Hey, Mark, how are you? Are you ready? You ready? You got a drink in your hand, so you must be ready. He must be ready. But you can find me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. Again, your Mavericks pre- and post-game host. You can find Reg on Twitter. Follow him because he doesn't like to be followed. Follow him on Twitter at Reg Adetula. We're going to talk a little
I apologize
Mavericks
ahead of time just to let you know.
You knew I was going to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
Shout out to Nick Angstad and the Locked On Mavs Network and Slightly Biased. We appreciate hanging out with y'all as well. So, real quick, if y'all feel like the Mavs are going to win tomorrow, make some noise. Did I hear? Oh, okay, that was a cheer. I thought I heard a boo for a second.
Yeah, that did sound like a boo. I was a little confused.
That sounded like a boo for a second. I was like, hey, what's your name over there?
Noise, but it's not the right noise.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. So we're going to get into, obviously, some keys, what we feel like is going to happen tomorrow night, but also what we feel like we've seen through the first couple of games so far in this series before we get Mark Followill on. And, Rez, I'm going to start with you because Celtics up 2-0, obviously. Kyrie, Luka, trying to figure this thing out for you. As Mark Followill, your Mavericks television voice, joins. Just give us some noise. Make some noise. Mark, you're going to grab that mic right there. Mark, what's going on?
Doing all right. Now better you're here, you know?
It's a pleasure. Looking forward to chopping up with you guys about the Mavs. And I believe the saying is, if you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
That's right.
So
I've often said that.
That's what I heard.
Si no creas, no debería estar aquí.
Okay.
He came with the
Spanish.
bilingual. He came with the bilingual. I hear you, Mark.
I just want to stop real quick and make note of the fact that I feel very inadequate voice-wise because yours is so booming and wonderful. So I just wanted to make that known.
No, you're all good, Reggie. It's all good, man. So.
Well, we appreciate you hanging out with us for a little bit. Mark answered the call. I texted saying, Mark, I need you. I need you one more time.
Yeah.
And he said, you know what,
Kevin,
Kevin,
you texted me before Nick.
That's right. That's right. Nick was like, hey, did you talk to Follow? I was like, yeah, I sure did.
Yeah.
I sure did. So I appreciate you hanging out with us.
He had to clear it with his wife first before he could come down.
As did I. Rez doesn't have that problem yet.
That's right.
So you don't have to worry about that. But let's get into it. Game 3 tomorrow night. Mavericks down, obviously, 2-0. Rez, I was going to start with you real quick. What is the key for the Mavericks to get this turned around based on what you've seen for the first 2 games so far?
I mean, can we go as easy as knocking down shots?
That would help.
That's going to be huge in this. I think, I don't know if this is like the major key, but it's one of the things I've been thinking a lot about, especially with KP being out in the ways in which I think this team is going to be able to be more attacking, getting downhill. I think that pass that Kyrie talked about earlier today, he talked about the idea because he was asked what would a better Game 3 look like for him. Yeah. And he talked about, for one, fundamentally being more sound shooting. And I thought that was interesting that he went into a mechanics place. But then he also talked about not driving and getting into like the teeth of the defense with 3 or 4 defenders around them. And I translated that as like getting the ball out quicker, passing that ball just a little bit earlier. And that took me to Luka, because Luka loves waiting that extra half beat to draw in the defender. And I feel like against the Celtics, that's not been as beneficial here. I feel like that's allowed the Celtics to really close in and clamp down on what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think that if he can move that ball a little bit sooner, I think we can maybe find them getting the Celtics into rotation, which they haven't done a ton in this series. And so that's one of the things I've been thinking about a lot recently. I don't know if that's the major key, but I do wonder if they can find a way to get the Boston defense in rotation. I think that might be one way to get to it.
Just to follow up on that, I heard Nick's outstanding podcast today, and he had one of his own questions answered by Tim Legler on Tim Legler's podcast. And he didn't say it exactly like that, but his comment was a little bit similar in that he thinks there's been some good looks there for Kyrie, and there's almost been some times, he said, that to me it looks like maybe he's made one move too many. That on the first move the shot's been there, and he's maybe waited too long, and then on the second move, then that's allowed a Boston defender a chance to recover. So to your point, I think that both of those things kind of tie together a little bit.
And for me, when you look at what Kyrie has done in the first couple of games, hasn't made a three yet necessarily in this series, trying to figure out a way to get some things going there from the three-point line. But for me, I want to see the vertical game hopefully get going a little bit. We were talking about Porzingis not being in the middle there. Yeah. How does Daniel Gafford and Dereck Lively's had a tough series so far in the first couple of games. Can the Mavericks get that vertical game going to try and maybe get Al Horford, 38 years old, maybe a little bit of foul trouble? Maybe that could be something that we could see start to happen going into Game 3.
Yeah, I think that in watching these playoffs and this run now for 2 months, I mean, it's very clear that a lot of the essence of what the playoffs are whenever you're facing off against a team over the span of 2 weeks and trying to win 4 out of 7 games against them is you've got to, and I know this is a very sports cliche kind of thing to say, but you've got to impose your will on the other team. And the way I've kind of phrased that in a lot of these series is, can you make the other team break character? Yeah. I was on with the Hardline guys today, and I thought, and by the way, speaking of the radio, remind me in a little bit to tell you about a good vibe I got off your radio station tonight, Kevin. So just remind me. So that just popped into my head. I don't want to distract myself from this story.
Was it his or mine? Was it his or
yours? Yours. Yes. The Eagle. Yes, the home of the Mavs. The home of the Mavs. The flagship station of the Mavericks. I got a good vibe off there tonight. And I'm going to tell you why in a little bit. But I said it with the guys on the Hardline today. It's like Dallas got Minnesota to break character. Remember the first game of the series? Minnesota took 49 threes. That was the most threes they'd taken in any game, regular season or playoffs. Yeah. They got them featuring Rudy Gobert in their offense in the first couple of games, or in the last game of the series in the first quarter of that game. So I think that is also part of it as well, is like, can you get the other team to break character? Well, what's happened in this series is that Boston has gotten Dallas completely out of the vertical game, and they've gotten them completely out of their three-point shooting, or their corner three-point shooting specifically. So to Kevin's point, the vertical game has to get going. And look, if I'm Dereck Lively, a rookie in the NBA, and Daniel Gafford for that matter, man, I feel pretty damn good, because Boston has geared a defensive game plan to stop us. Yeah, I mean, Boston has loaded up on, we have got to stop this, because this is such an important part of what the Mavericks do on offense. And whenever Boston had one breakdown the other night and doubled Luka in a pick and roll involving Lively, and Lively got free for a dunk, Joe Mazzulla immediately called timeout, presumably to F-bomb all the guys for what happened on that play. So that is, to your point, what they've got to do, because whenever the pick and roll involves one of the big guys, obviously they're switching at that point. Yeah. And whenever it involves somebody else, then there's help off the non-shooter, and they can double team the pick and roll in that case. But they are clearly gearing up to stop Daniel Gafford and Dereck Lively in the vertical game, and they have gotten the Mavericks to break character. They have gotten them to go away from that. They've got to get back to that. And if you do that, maybe that opens up corner three-point shooting, or maybe it's the other way around. Sure. If somehow you get some corner threes to go in, which is also a staple of who the Mavs are, then maybe that opens up the vertical game. But the Mavericks have to get back to doing the things that make them who they are. Their DNA of this great run is not solely these two things, but a lot of it is corner threes and lob dunks, and they've just got to figure out a way to unlock both of those things to some degree. Yeah.
Brian Dameris joining us from Bally Sports.
Hey, make some noise.
What's up, Brian?
What's going on, gentlemen? I couldn't let Followill hog the whole time.
I just thought you got up here because you couldn't hear me. But you wanted to hear what I had to say.
To your point, they're taking away that vertical game because they know those are the easy high percentage buckets, and basically daring the Mavs to shoot threes. Yeah. And the Mavs are not converting the threes, and until the Mavs can hit those, they're going to keep tagging the roll man like the Clippers did, and making it hard, bracketing those guys as they're going down the front. And obviously the way they're playing the pick and roll with a smaller player, then you're bringing up somebody else a lot of times on the pick and roll, because you don't want to bring up the big man and bring Tatum with them on the switch and all of that kind of thing. What changes is the Porzingis factor. If he's not in there, then your big men have to punish what they're doing inside.
Test Boston's depth a little bit behind Al Horford there, because it doesn't seem like they have a lot of depth behind Horford based on what they're doing.
Well, that's the question of what they do, right? Yeah. Can they go? Do they go with Cornette and Tillman, or do they even go small with Tatum and say, all right, on offense, you're still going to have a problem because we're 5 out and we're going to play spacing basketball.
So you're saying they play Pritchard or Hauser as one of the
play
guys?
Tatum at the 5.
Yeah, okay.
And then on defense, say, okay, bigs, beat us because you haven't done it yet. And then if it becomes a layup line, then they'll obviously switch that and play Cornet. But they could even go small, and that'll be an interesting wrinkle.
Yeah, because whenever KP got hurt in the series against Miami, then Horford moved into the starting lineup, and Cornet got the backup big man minutes. Then Cornet got hurt against Cleveland and against Indiana in the conference finals and missed a couple of games. And then when he was unavailable, then Xavier Tillman Sr. got the backup big man minutes. Yeah. So that's something, obviously. Look, I saw a stat today, Reg, that said in the 2 games so far, the Celtics are plus 25 and Porzingis' minutes on the floor, and it's even in the minutes that Porzingis hasn't played.
Yeah, to speak
to his importance.
Yeah, to take that even further, if you look at the net rating difference when he's on versus when he's off, 42.5 difference in that net rating.
So now you're saying, okay, the non-Porzingis minutes are Horford minutes, and by the way, when he plays over 30 minutes, his effectiveness goes down.
Absolutely.
So he only has so many minutes. And then, so if you're even there, then the non-Horford minutes, which are also non-Porzingis minutes, you've got to feast on those.
Yeah.
And I'm super intrigued by that because I do think that Horford sops up some of those minutes, and maybe now you have 10 to 15 minutes that go to Luke Cornet. But I think those 10 to 15 minutes could be super interesting because you mentioned it, Brian. You get to the place where they're no longer playing 5 out. And I think that gives you in theory, if they don't go small, that gives you one of those players that you can sag off of. And now the Mavs get to, as you're talking, Elmar, they can get back to what they do, which is now they can get back to playing off of that guy, maybe allowing your big to roam a little bit and protect the paint. And that's really necessary, especially with the amount of blow-bys that you've seen for the Mavs. They love being able to, as you know, funnel into that big. That big has been pulled away. Hopefully, if you get those 10 minutes, you can get back into what you typically do.
The problem on both sides, and that's a great point, the problem defensively is they're taking that big all the way to the three-point line.
Yeah.
They're blowing by him, going to the hole. We're building a wall with mid-sized guys and saying, all right, take that tough shot, although they're converting them effectively, or pop out for the 3. There's no big man in there anymore.
Right.
And then on the offensive end, we've got to, as you say, get back to what we do because we're playing slow down isolation basketball, one-on-one, try to beat your guy, take a tough mid-range shot because that's what their defense has given us. Problem is, how do you beat this team? Well, Indiana showed us a blueprint. You play with pace.
Yeah.
You run.
Mavs were a top 10 pace team all season long.
Try to get effectively. They haven't really been a good transition defense team in the playoffs. They were in the regular season, Boston. So you got to play with pace, and you got to get back to the vertical game and moving the ball around, getting the bodies moving so those corner threes open up. But just playing isolation basketball and trying to take tough shots, that plays into their hands.
Yeah. I like the idea of pace. Now, Brian can attest to this, that we've talked about this on the podcast. Pace has frustrated me a few times during the playoffs because, I absolutely loved the pass ahead in the regular season.
Sure.
And it was the essence of why the Mavs went from 28th to 29th, whatever they were last season, to being 8th in pace this year. But possessions are so important and so precious in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And there have been some pass aheads that I got to admit have kind of frustrated me. I thought there were some pass aheads that, along with bad free throw shooting, and look, it's ancient history now, but it's why the Mavs lost Game 4 in the series against Oklahoma City. Now they bounced back, they won the series. Like I said, it's ancient history. We move on. But I think Brian's right. Look, Indiana showed that pace is something you can do against Boston. I hope the balance is there of play with pace in a smart way. And I know that sounds weird because I love what the Mavs did within the regular season. I hope that they can find the right pitch to do that in the playoffs and not cost themselves possessions, because let's not forget, of all the things that happened in Game 2, and there were many, and obviously it's a Rue the Day game, like you said when you came on the ticket, Brian, on Sunday night with me and with Justin Montemayor, but 15 turnovers hurt the Mavs big time.
Yes, it did, yeah.
Because it gives, and by the way, it gives Boston a chance to score easy baskets, which they were already doing the other night. That's what offset going 10 for 39 on threes.
They had 6
drives
points on
into the paint.
Easy transitions in the first quarter.
Yeah.
When you combine that with the 10 points at the free throw line, That's why they had a lead in a game where they shot 1 of 9 from 3 in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Welcome back to your podcast, Kevin.
Look, we're all here talking Mavs basketball, so it's all good. It's all good. So let's get into X factors then for Game 3, because we've talked about getting back to the vertical game, maybe playing with some more pace. This team has not shot the ball well 3 in the first couple of games so far. How much more do guys like P.J. Washington, Josh Green to a degree, how are some of these guys going to be able to try to hopefully play the role of being at home and being better at home versus what we've seen in the road the first couple of games so far?
Okay, thank you. Thank you guys for giving me first go. I think that one of the things with PJ is, I think, something that we started to see in Game 2. I can't remember exactly where, but the idea that go and be Magic Johnson in a way and like go before that Boston defense sets up with that pace. Attack closeouts, but then also you saw him get that ball early and try and create like almost pseudo transition, go quickly before and he was able to get to the rim. I think that continue to do that. And then also I think just being comfortable at home, knocking down shots, especially like, I know that corner threes are what you want, but if above the break threes are what they're going to give you, knock those down too. I think that you've seen them be a little hesitant at times, and then also just not knock down shots. Again, easy answer, knocking down shots, but those guys taking those confidently, especially someone like PJ, in addition to maybe some 45 cuts here and there. I know that Luka likes him when that guy's positioned so that he knows where they are so he can throw it to him. But there's times, and we saw it with Jrue Holiday, where that cut will really help your guy who's driving and diving in to have an outlet. And I think that there's been instances where maybe those cuts could be super helpful. I think that although those things are things particularly for PJ, I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I think PJ is the X factor, and because you saw this in games 2 and 3 against Oklahoma City, because Boston plays a similar defense where they've got, there was Lou Dort, now it's Jrue Holiday or Jaylen Brown, and then Kyrie's getting 1 to 2 bodies on him. He's trying to turn the corner. There's a big man there. He's getting tough shots. It's the same recipe, right? So what'd they do? They posted up P.J. Washington, who now will be on. At that time, it was, I don't even remember who it was, Isaiah Joe or somebody like that.
Yeah, I think Shea, too. I think he posted up Shea some. Yeah.
Now it's going to be White, right? That big on small. Try to get some points out of him. Those 29 points and 27 points in game 2 and 3 won those games for the Mavericks. He was the leading scorer. Getting more out of him. Easy baskets. I think they'll try to take it down low to Gafford. You saw that happen a couple of times. If we're going to put Tatum on him, force that shot a little bit. And then the bench has got to give you a little bit more. I think that
only 9 points in game 2 for the
Green
bench.
and Maxey have to be ready to shoot at all times.
Yeah.
Hardy, for that aggressiveness. And listen, even Tim Hardaway, we know he's unconscious. Let's run him out there. If he's having a good game, continue it. If not, thanks for the try. But we've got to get a little bit more because the bench minutes are critical. Kyrie and Luka cannot play 45, 46 minutes a game. So you're going to need time in there when only one of them's out there on the court. The defense keys on them, and other people are going to have shots open for them.
For me, the X factor is less about players and it's about mindset. And, you guys know I love history. It's always good to know history and to draw on it. But then, you write your own history. I mean, the future is unwritten. But Kyrie Irving was on one of the 5 teams to come back from down 2-0 to win the finals.
That's right.
2016, down 2-0 and down 3-1, obviously against the 73-win Warriors. The Mavericks, and Luka, of course, was the centerpiece of that, but there are other players on this team who were down 2-0 against the Phoenix Suns and, quite frankly, probably looked worse in losing those 2 games to Phoenix than this group looked in losing the 2 games to Boston. So to me, I'm like, how do I summon those experiences, those vibes, that aura, and channel it in the right way for tomorrow night's game, while also realizing and also balancing, it's like, okay, I want, I've been part of this, I've dug out of this hole, I know what it's like, I want to channel those vibes, but also make sure that I'm not looking too far ahead because, tomorrow's the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
We can, it's fun
must win.
Yeah, it is a must win because if you don't win tomorrow night, people that come back from down 2-0.
People define must win as elimination games. No, those are elimination games.
Yes.
This is a must win.
Yes, and there's no reason to think about Friday until you win tomorrow's game and then take the good things that you did out of tomorrow and apply it to Friday, take the bad things you did and work on them and fix them and be better in that regard on Friday, but you got to win tomorrow night. So to me, it's like, you've got guys who have traveled this path before How do you draw on that experience and then find the right balance of drawing on that experience, but also keeping yourself in the moment of the only thing that matters is you got to win this damn thing tomorrow night, and then we'll start talking about Friday at that point.
Yeah, when we had media availability today, I asked Kyrie about how is he helping Luka, and how are the two of them helping each other be able to get through a moment like this.
And he said, mi hermano. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, I heard
exactly
that.
what he said. And he took accountability for the way that he played the first couple of games. He said, look, I got to be better for me and for him playing alongside of him. And maybe tomorrow night, this is the opportunity he's been looking for to be able to help Luka be able to get this team where they need to be, because they're going to need, obviously, what Kyrie brings from a leadership standpoint and obviously what he does on the floor to be able to get this team to help the rest of his teammates
and
as well.
To that point, I think you're going to see Kyrie come out aggressive early for a couple of reasons. One, to set the tone and be that hermano to help him out. And two, to save Luka's legs. Luka was 1 of 6 in the fourth quarter. He was not a real good shooting in the first game from the fourth. Why? Because of the defense. He's in a lot of those actions. They're targeting him. He's having spent a lot of energy on that end. And he's in every action in the pick and roll, banging on the offensive end, and he's just exhausted. Plus the injuries affecting him. So as much as Kyrie can take the load off early, that'll save Luka for late, because I think we all agree if it's a clutch game, we have the advantage. Well, we got to get to a clutch game so that Luka can take over.
I thought, Reg, you had a really good point earlier. I mean, I love that we're talking X factors, and obviously, there's a lot of smart basketball minds up here, and we're trying to think on the next level. But John Wooden, the great UCLA coach, said the most important statistic in basketball is field goal percentage. I mean, as you said earlier, you got to make some shots, man. You are not going to win when, the Mavs shot, 41-something% in game one. Boston had their off-shooting three-point game, but they offset that. As Brian pointed out, they had easy transition opportunities, and they had, I was so down about it, I didn't even look up the numbers, but it had to be the best paint shooting game an opponent has had against the Mavs in these playoffs.
If we're talking restricted circle, Boston 15 of 15 in game 1, 20 of 27 in game 2. Just at the restricted circle.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's not going to get it done.
No,
man.
it's not.
You got to make some shots on your end, and you've got to. That's another part of their DNA is they have defended the paint really well. Now, to Brian's point earlier, Boston's offense spreads you out, and it's hard to pack the paint, and it's hard to build that wall inside.
When Horford's not in the game, and let's assume Porzingis is out, then you play the defense you played against Minnesota, where you're keeping that big by the rim at all costs, and you're building that wall, and it's a totally different game.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to respect the 5 out and have to switch everything.
I'm interested in pursuit of trying to cut off the water at the rim. Would you be interested in more defensive zone possessions from this Mavs team, or do you think that that's just a bridge too far and something that's a little bit too easy to carve up?
I mean, they tried that. They've tried that in both games, and it's still a matter of then they're just going to shoot over it.
Yeah. I mean, it would scare. It would. We're in a podcast. We're at Four Corners Brewing. It would scare the shit out of me to play too much zone against Boston because of their 3-point shooting. And the other thing too is offensive rebounding. I mean, what's a weakness that occurs when you play zone defense? That then you got to check off. You got to block. You got to find somebody to block out, and you're susceptible to giving up offensive rebounds. So. I think as an off-speed pitch, I'm all on board with trying off-speed pitches throughout the course of the game. And if you need something to disrupt the rhythm, if you need something to fluster them, but then by all means go to it. I don't know. To me, I would be really worried about playing too many consecutive possessions because I think they're smart enough to figure it out, and the odds are just with them that they're really good shooters, and they're probably going to force you out of the zone by making some shots. This is what I think.
I feel like for Dallas tomorrow, they've got to be, as Brian mentioned, be the aggressor because Boston, right now, they haven't lost on the road this postseason. This is a team that knows how to win on the road. How do you keep this crowd in it early on to continue to have that energy? Because if you don't get this crowd in it, it could be becoming real difficult based on the way that Boston can play on the road. How do the Mavericks find a way to not get into a trap where they're trying to keep up with the math of the Boston Celtics when it comes to the three-point line in that way?
Now, you guys may remember my speech before Game 6 of OKC about we needed everybody to come here and just make this medieval hell for the Thunder and barbarians and Visigoths, and just for these people to think, what in the Sam hell did I just walk into? And I get your point, and I say a lot of times, Reg and Kevin and Brian, that you got to give the crowd something to get excited about, and then it'll come back to you, and it's it's like a boomerang effect. Man, it can't be that way tomorrow night.
Yeah,
and I thought I think we have a good crowd, by the way, and having been to every arena, and Brian's got to go to a lot of them this year, man. I think we're a top 10 crowd and great game presentation in the league. But tomorrow, man, it has to be on point. It can't be about, well, we got to do something to keep the crowd in the game. No, we got to be in the game. If you're in the stands tomorrow night, you got to be in the game. And it's not, oh, you got to give me something to get excited. No,
give them
we're
something.
in the fucking finals. Be excited.
Yeah, this is definitely the opportunity for the fans to be able to help out. But I think that this is another reason why Kyrie has to be aggressive early. He's been the maestro of the arena. I can't count how many times he's gone in transition and done that pull-up three that he does, and then it just completely knocks the roof off of the AAC. I think that him being aggressive early would give you the opportunity to maybe play the crowd as much as they need to bring it as well. I think that him being aggressive early and being successful in that can also help in those efforts.
Yeah, I think so too. And Luka also, obviously, it'll be interesting to see on that setting the tone whether Kyrie does kind of come out aggressive early and how they take turns. If they try to get some others involved to unlock the confidence of those role players, giving PJ a look, giving Gafford a little post-up opportunity, trying to get the vertical game specifically, run some plays like the very first play Gafford played as a Maverick. Try to run that kind of play you saw against Oklahoma City to get Gafford an easy dunk and get that going. And listen, I was in Boston. It was really, really the loudest I heard of any of the playoff atmospheres, and we heard a lot about Minnesota and Oklahoma City. So, the Mavs fans, I think, will bring it. But you're right, that the Mavericks have to give them something to keep that going, because I think there's something that's going to hitting the psyche a little bit of Boston without Porzingis in there. And they're like, okay, do I need to press a little bit more as a Brown or a Tatum? And they don't play well when they press, and they get into ISO, kind of your turn, my turn, and they're not as free-flowing and moving. So let's help them seed that doubt.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
I've heard all three of you guys, and I needed to speak about Porzingis as if he's not playing tomorrow night. Now, nothing's happened in the last 30 to 60 minutes before I got here tonight, right?
I don't believe so.
It's still all, he's listed as questionable.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Now, Dr. Google certainly seems to make it that it certainly looks like it's a long shot that he would play. Dr. Chat GPT seems to indicate that it would be unlikely that he would play, or there would be certainly a risk of further, not just aggravation, but of really seriously, it could develop into a serious injury. Hey, look, it already sounds like it's a serious injury that a lot of times has to be
serious
fixed.
Injury
I mean, it sounds like it's an injury that the course of action to repair it a lot of times, I mean, you can do it through rest, but surgical intervention seems like that's kind of the thing that you typically do. So, I don't know. I mean, I know that KP had good spirits, and he certainly looked like the part today. And I'm going to do everything I can. And there's no reason for Boston to pronounce him out. I would certainly be engaging in gamesmanship as much as I possibly could. But I've just heard everybody kind of speak as if it's a foregone conclusion. I didn't know if anything's nothing news coming up on that. Right?
You're obviously game planning for both scenarios.
Yeah.
But if we're reading tea leaves and kind of just assuming, when you see the word torn and injuries, it would surprise me if he played.
And I think an interesting point for me has been, even if he plays, is he as effective as the Kristaps Porzingis that you'd seen in the first two games? Because in game 2, after that incident happens where we believe that he had that particular injury, you could see it. It was visible that he was not his full self, and you were able to take advantage of that in some ways. And so I personally take a little solace in, I don't know how effective he would be even if he toughed it out in order to play on that injury.
Yeah, I mean, one of the symptoms of the injury, and one of the things that can, one of the way it symptomatically presents itself is instability in the foot and ankle, and that certainly is not very conducive to a 7'3" guy playing his best basketball, is it?
Especially with the skill set that Porzingis presents based on trying to get to the rim and doing some of the other things he does, shooting the ball as well. I'm going to start with you, Brian, on this one, because we talked about a lot of the different players. What's one player we're not talking about that could have a big game tomorrow night to help the Mavericks win?
I'd like Dereck Lively to have his best game. I think that defensively, you
just made somebody happy wearing a Dereck Lively jersey right here in the front.
Oh, yeah, got
Absolutely.
the Lively jersey.
There it is.
Yeah.
When you look at his plus-minus coming into the finals, he was the number one player in plus-minus for these Mavs in the playoffs. What he was able to do at the rim, again, the old way they were playing without being spread out. I think that side of it, and then the offensive side with the vertical game and everything else, if they can get a strong game from him. Gafford obviously played well in game 2, especially in the second half.
I mean, they're 8-0 in the playoffs when those two combine for 20 points.
Yeah.
No,
so you're looking for a third score. Look, this is all about Luka and Kyrie, and they've averaged 59 points in the regular season combined. They were down in like 39 in the Oklahoma City series, so you had to have those P.J. Washington minutes. You had to have the centers play effectively.
Yeah.
Are they going to get to 59? I don't know. If they can get to 45, 49, then have your centers be effective and get to 20, and then have P.J. Washington do what he's done, that's a recipe for success.
I think I'm gonna lean on the head coach here. Jason Kidd earlier today was asked about Dante Exum's role, and I think Dante Exum is an interesting one because he can be used as a third ball handler with Kyrie and Luka, and particularly with the role that they've had and the amount of pressure, I guess you could say, that they've had in the course of this. Dante Exum, one, they trust in him defensively, and two, he can be a ball handler that can maybe help Luka and Kyrie take some of that role off of them. So I think that Kids talked about how he's going to try and utilize him a little bit more in those roles. I think that Exum could be, especially if he gives you the good minutes, because we've seen when Exum is giving you those good minutes, he can knock down shots, especially timely shots, and then he has a little bit of size that he can be able to lend defensively. I think that he has a potential to be useful for you in Game 3.
I'll go with one of his boomer buddies, Josh Green.
Yeah.
Because if you can make energy, hustle plays, loose ball recoveries. I didn't look this up for Game 2, but there were 9 loose balls in Game 1. Boston got 6. Dallas got 3. I don't know what the number was for Game 2, but watching the game, it certainly didn't feel like that was something that was advantage Dallas. So that was, again, probably advantage Boston. I could be wrong on that. I don't know. But this game tomorrow night needs the kind of play. Brian brought up pace. He's a great pace player. Loose balls, energy plays, hustle plays, corner threes, if the opportunity, if you can get some of them. Obviously he's a guy who takes a significant percentage of his threes are corner threes. If you can have and it doesn't even have to be big double digits. If you just had a 10 or 11 point game with a couple of made threes, a couple of transition baskets, some steals, some loose balls, some balls that are poked away that get somebody else out in transition, stealing an offensive rebound that leads to somebody scoring a couple of those, and we've seen him do that, where it looks like somebody's got a defensive board and he's just able to poke it away or rip it away or something like that. So tomorrow night's game, given the desperate nature of it, seems to me like it's crying out for somebody to make these sort of intangible type plays to help push this thing over the edge. So let's go. I'll go with Reg brings up Dante Exum, one of his boomer buddies, Josh Green.
There you go. I'm going to go with Derrick Jones Jr. You talk about corner threes and guys that can get out in pace and run out in transition. Derrick Jones Jr., high flyer, can make some things happen as well. Maybe him coming home gives him an opportunity to play a little bit better. I'm going to go with Derrick Jones Jr. because I think he's going to be a guy that can provide you a lot of energy as well, especially in that defensive, dealing with Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum. I'm going to go with Derrick Jones Jr.
I like what y'all are doing. All 3 of y'all picked guys that can make big-time dunks that get the arena going. I like what we're doing there.
Some high flyers for sure.
Yeah, well, you look at what a role player's job is to fill those gaps, make little plays here and there. Look at the 2011 season. Jan Mahimi was instrumental in some things. Brian Cardinal, Corey Brewer. You just need them to in a possession by possession game, and that's what this is. It's every possession matters. When the bench is in there and you've got Josh and Exum in the game at the same time with Kyrie and whoever it is, you have to be able to succeed in those minutes. So if they can just do their job effectively, that sets the table for the superstars to take over when they need to.
Before we end, I want to ask you guys this question because knowing what's at stake tomorrow, and Mark, I'll start with you on this one. The Mavericks win tomorrow's Game 3 because they do what well against Boston?
Oh, it's get back to who they are. And who they are is scoring points in the paint and the pick and roll and lobs to the big guys and what those guys do producing 20 points, because I know one day maybe the air is going to come out of that balloon on my number on that, but I'm going to keep on rolling with it since they're 8-0 in these playoffs when Gafford and Lively combine for 20. So, I mean, the keys I had before the series were clutch play, but you got to get it to clutch play. And I thought rebounding was part of it, and obviously the team that had the most efficient paint attacks. And the paint attacks open other things up, whether it's the paint attacks force Boston to do like Rudy Gobert and overhelp, and then the lobs there, or the paint attacks force them to help off people in the corners, and there's kickouts for open corner threes. Now, it seems like anytime that's going to happen, Joe Mazzulla's going to bang a timeout and yell at whoever did that. But, hopefully you can get something like that happening. So to me, I don't think it's any harder, Kevin, than getting right back to what this team's DNA is, and that is you got to score in the vertical game, and you've got to generate corner threes and knock enough of them down at a respectable percentage to hopefully even further loosen up, a Boston defense that quite obviously is pretty hard to loosen up.
I think it's hit shots. To Mark's point, I think defensively, they're playing pretty well. They held them to 105, and what was it? I don't know how many.
107, yeah.
107. Their offensive rating is, I think, 98 or something like that. So that side of the basketball is going to be fine. They're getting open looks. They're not hitting them, whether it's threes, whether it's the tough mid-range shots from Kyrie and Luka, whether it's other guys getting into the paint and then forcing them to open up more opportunities from the outside. They're going to get opportunities to hit shots. Hopefully at home they feel more comfortable. There was just a lot of open looks that they weren't hitting. A lot of those threes weren't falling. They haven't hit the three ball well at all this series. I think everybody but Luka is shooting 23% from three in this series. So if they hit their shots, they win.
What's funny is the words that I was going to use is defend well. I understand what you're saying about the defensive rating, but I'm stuck on the ability that this Boston Celtics team has had to score well in the restricted area, and that's what the Mavericks have done incredibly well. They got here by playing incredible defense, and I'd rather to see them play that incredible defense again. Shutting off the water is going to be tough, and I know that the Boston Celtics missed threes in Game 2, but their process all the way through this has felt like they've gotten what they wanted process-wise. And if the Mavericks can do a little bit better job of getting them away from their process, what they want to do, get them off mission, that would absolutely spell a win for me in the Mavericks book. So I think defensively, that's where I'm at.
I support that, man, because Boston takes the fewest percentage of their shots in the paint in the playoffs, but they also, going into the finals, and obviously there's no reason to assume this has changed because they've been really good, they had the best paint shooting percentage. Fewest percentage of shots in the paint, but the best shooting percentage in the paint, and that's only gone up. That's been an area where Dallas's defense hasn't been what it was in the first three series. I mean, we have locked down the paint for three series. That's why they're here, and it's been, just frankly, and I'm sure they'd be the first to say it, it's been too porous. There are reasons for that Boston is causing and creating. But, yeah, you've got to figure that riddle out, man. I'm with you 100% on that.
I'm going to go with Kyrie.
Fair enough.
He has taken the accountability of what he has not been able to do in the first couple of games. And Luka, as much effort, as much he's putting forward to try and help this team win, Kyrie has to be the one that sets the tone, the aggressive one early on the offensive end, and really put Boston in a bind about what he's been able to do or what he's capable of doing offensively. And if so, I think Kyrie's got a chance to put a real stamp on this game early on and really get some of that bad juju that he was dealing with in Boston out of there and really be able to put his imprint on this game. So if Kyrie plays the way that Kyrie's capable of playing, I think Luka's going to give them what they need, and those two setting the tone, I think really gets this team going what they need to beat Boston tomorrow night. Before we end, what's your good vibes that you want to share with us?
Right,
because I want to make sure we get the good vibes in for the folks here at Four
Good
Corners.
for you, because I smooth forgot personally.
I totally
I didn't want him to
forgot
forget because I want to hear it too, damn it. I want to hear it too.
Okay, well, look, this is I'm sorry, Brian. You might want to just go ahead and just close your ears. So this is a Kevin and me thing. So
do I need? I see where you're going already.
Okay, so look, part of the reason a radio station acquires sports rights is the game ends, and then the next time you get in the car, you turn that radio station on. So obviously, I was feeling down, and I didn't drive anywhere yesterday. So after Sunday, I did pre and post game at the Ticket. And I'd gone out during the game to get something to eat, and so I heard Chuck and Brian doing a great job on the radio broadcast during the game on Sunday. And so 97.1 was the radio station that was still on my car whenever I got in to come down here tonight. And I'll be damned that the first song I didn't hear, there was a Foo Fighters song that was wrapping up, but then all of a sudden one of the great guitar riffs in history, the beginning of Cult of Personality by Living Colour comes on. Now, some people in here, Kevin knows, he's
That's
laughing.
Right.
I see other people in here laughing. They know that, of course, is the theme song to the best in the world, CM Punk.
CM Punk,
yes,
that's right.
That's CM Punk's theme song. Nothing creates an arena pop quite like the great guitar that goes
Yes.
off at the beginning of Cult of Personality, and the whole arena knows that CM Punk is about to come out. Now, he's a Chicago guy. He probably hates Boston. I don't know. I've never heard him talk about it. He's a Chicago guy, but I'm sure there's been some Blackhawks. He's a big Blackhawks guy.
That's a big
Kevin.
hockey guy, yeah.
Yeah, so there's probably been some big battles with the Bruins in the past. He probably hates Boston. So when I knew that I was coming down here to see you and heard on the Eagle Cult of Personality and knowing what a CM Punk guy that I am, I really felt like that was the universe conveying to me that, hey, man, I didn't mean that the whole thing is going to get solved, but at least tomorrow night, this thing's going to be okay.
You want bonus good vibes?
I do.
Bonus
Yes, I
good
can't wait to hear
vibes. I
if
love
Brian
it.
has something to do with professional wrestling. That's what I want to hear.
If he got a professional wrestling reference, I would love to hear this.
No, sorry. But do you know what tomorrow is, Mark?
It's
June the 12th.
oh, it's the anniversary of the title. There you go.
That's right.
Yeah, Game 6.
Yeah.
And I have it on good authority that there will be several members of that team in attendance.
Ooh, okay.
So
Alrighty then.
Talk about good vibes. I think one JJ Barea is coming into town.
okay.
Love to see it.
So
Love to hear it.
a lot of the 2011 crew will be there. Dirk will be in the house. It'll be a good crowd.
Trix will be there because I know I'm in an event with him on Thursday, so I
There
know
you
he'll
go.
be there. So
Very
yeah,
Obviously,
nice.
Tyson will be there. So good vibes, part 2.
Take that with you. Take that
Yes.
with you.
So you see what I deal with.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Dameris of Bally Sports and Mark Followill of Bally Sports. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I love the Cult of Personality reference. I love you, Mark Followill. I love you for that. The phenomenal Mark Followill. Thank you so much for joining. You know what that was. Appreciate y'all joining us, man. Thank y'all so much. There he goes, Mark Followill and Brian Dameris. Good enough to join us here on this Mavs rally. As Nick Ainstad is like, put the mic down, damn it. You want to come back? Where's Slightly at? Come here, Slightly.
Slightly might have had too many. Is Slightly still in broadcaster shape?
The question is he like, drunk off his ass? Is the question.
That's what I meant by broadcaster shape.
Yeah, we got 4 mics, right? I don't want to mess up y'all's cute 3-man weave here, but I'm here, so damn it.
Honestly, I'm just happy I held my own with
Ain't
Dameris
that
and
cute? Look at y'all.
Followill. That was
y'all.
tough.
Y'all are so cute, man. Reverse cookies and cream. Look at y'all.
All right, okay.
Hey, yo.
Calm down.
My bad.
What is wrong with you?
I thought we was grown folks in here. I'm just saying.
See, you got off air from your professional job, and you was like, we gonna cut up over
You
here.
might as well cut up with
Okay.
me.
All right.
Slightly drunk off his ass.
That's not true.
That's not, look at these allegations.
That's not true.
Just hurling.
I'm just
Let me check the pupils.
yeah, right.
Exactly.
He's good.
He's
I'm
good.
Okay.
He's good. I'm good.
I don't know if he would pass a breathalyzer, but he's good.
No, I definitely passed the breathalyzer.
I know y'all did some Q&A earlier. We could do one more Q&A before we get out of here, before I turn it over.
Anybody have more
Sure.
questions?
Anyone had any more questions?
Any more
Mavericks
questions,
for
guys?
Game 2 tomorrow, or Game 3 tomorrow night? If
I got
not,
a question. First of all, how dare you?
What?
That's right. Agree.
How dare I what?
Yeah, what was that for?
I think we're good.
You're good?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay, then I have a question for you two. then.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
How has this experience been for you two, live and in color and in person, among the people, among the Raccoon Squad?
Neither of us are in color.
wow.
Wow.
I
Clear.
mean, technically correct.
As Bill Murray would say, clear. Clear. Shout out to Space Jam.
I'm a little bit tater than Nick, I think, at least.
That is one of my
That is
favorite
not
lines in the
hard.
movie. He's like, remember when what Bill Murray said? He said, Larry's not white. He's clear.
He's clear.
He's clear.
I'm with Larry Bird.
You're clear? You're just all clear. Have y'all had fun tonight, though?
Great time. Great turnout. Four Corners Brewery did a great job. Appreciate everybody that showed out.
I had a blast.
Good time.
Yeah.
Mavs
The
better
energy
win.
was good.
Mavs better win tomorrow. That's all I got.
That's right.
Whoo, boy. Vibe check. How are we feeling?
I feel good about tomorrow.
You
I really
feel good
do.
about tomorrow night?
I do. I just think you're not going to get a Kyrie performance that bad again, and that'll just set the tone for everybody else.
Let's hope not.
That's just my belief.
Because I hope he got that whole Boston Juju thing out of him.
Exactly. The home crowd. And I sent a challenge out to the home crowd tomorrow night. Anytime Kyrie gets the ball. Somebody compared it to last year in baseball. Trey Turner was like really struggling for the Phillies.
Yeah.
And you would think the Philadelphia home crowd usually boos that, but then one night they just decided to give him a huge standing ovation, and he turned around his season and had just a monster performance.
That would be a hell of a deal
onward.
if the entire AAC gave Kyrie a standing ovation. Like
Every time he touched the basketball?
At least early on.
I like that.
That would
That's
be
what I'm
incredible
saying.
too.
It's the NBA Finals. Everybody's got to lay it all on the line.
Is it a standing ovation if they're already standing?
They just stand up the entire
They're
time.
not going to be standing up the entire time. Have you ever been to the AAC?
Have I been to the AAC?
I'm just telling you right now, that final scratch
Of
tomorrow
the
night,
four
they
of
will
us,
not
who
be.
has been to the AAC the most?
Well, I think
It's definitely not me.
I think you'd be surprised.
Probably Nick Hangstad.
Yeah, I was going to say. Definitely.
Nick Hangstad. All right, real quick, Nick, vibe check for you.
Vibe check feeling good. Game 3 must win. When Luka and Kyrie have their backs against the walls, they're going to come up and they're going to show up big. Kyrie will not have another game like he did in game 1 and 2. And that'll be the difference.
Okay.
Porzingis will either be compromised or he won't play. And so that takes away an option for the Celtics, and I think that helps the Mavs.
Vibe check, Reg.
I'm feeling good. Game 2, Boston Celtics came out and actually they showed help in a very strong way. And I was looking at that game 1 and was like, oh, they can just do this all series. And they immediately realized that they had to switch it up on Luka Doncic. And I mean, look, eventually he'll figure it out. I feel like game 3 is that time where he figures it out. Plus, I mean, it feels impossible that you go and you have a full series in the NBA Finals where you don't knock down shots. Coming back home, you've got to imagine that vibes change, the backdrop looks the same, guys start seeing things go, get the crowd going, you get a win.
I want to one day sit as cool as Reggie is sitting right now.
Oh, is this cool?
The lean. You should check him out when he got his Cozumel hat on too, man. He got the white.
I should have brought the
beach
bucket
hat on.
Yeah,
you look
I
real
almost
comfortable.
wore a scarf because I know that you enjoy when I wear a scarf.
You would have
but,
brought Scarf Reg out tonight. That would have been great.
I thought about it.
Like a
I
Harry
would've put
Potter
that on.
character?
I missed that.
I don't understand.
Reg gets into a certain bag when he has his scarf on. It's like it's a different.
I don't get the
person.
Harry Potter reference either. Was it because
he's out here alone.
Oh, I thought because there was some funny Twitter memes today, the KP injury. People are like, this sounds like a Harry Potter spell.
It does.
Wow.
Like when you read it out loud.
It's like one of the rarest injuries like
It is.
on planet Earth.
Yeah, it's super
In
rare.
street clothes, Jeff Stotts had one recorded instance of it in the NBA ever.
One recorded.
I told you
instance of it?
earlier, I saw a tweet. I don't know how reliable it was. That
We're running
there
with
was
it again, though.
There was like 40 written historical cases of this injury.
That's crazy.
I don't know how true that is, though, but I'm saying it.
I'm feeling good, man. We'll see. We'll see.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us on Four Corners. We appreciate you for joining the live show. Thanks to Kevin Gray, Reggie Adetula.
Yeah.
Thanks to Brian Dameris. Thanks to Mark Followill. Thanks to Slightly Biased. Appreciate you. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs.